So let's talk a little bit about anxiety, nerves, and fear. And one thing that you will hear me say throughout this whole webinar is I will refer to the connection of your mind and your body and your emotions. And I'm separating those for the purpose of talking about them. But of course, our mind and our bodies and our emotions are never, ever really separated. And by that, I mean that when we think if we think something, it affects our emotions, which affects our body. If we do something with our body, it affects our emotions and what we think, and vice versa. And so I thought it was interesting to break down. Anxiety is really, I think of it as an emotional state that is a type of worry, a state of apprehension, like wondering if things are going to work out or not. Nerves, when I think about that, and nervousness, it feels like excitable and uneasy, and like I get this sensation in my body. And in fact, you'll kind of giggle about this. I wasn't giggling about 10 minutes ago, but I went to load the slides for this presentation, and it said this, does not have slides. And I'm like talking to the computer saying, yes, it does. And I'm not particularly techie, but I started breathing, and I figured it out. And so at that moment, I was feeling my nerves. Fear is distress caused by impending danger. And fear is a good thing if you are saving your life or you're making wise decisions about your horse to be in a safe situation. But most of the time, fear does not serve us. And in fact, because of the connection of your mind, body, and emotions, when you are in a fearful state, you actually cannot think clearly. You cannot, your heart rate is elevated, your palms are sweaty. It's physiological as well as emotional and mental. So when you are in a state that we're going to talk about in just a little bit, that is what allows you to ride well. So here are some of the basic principles, like a foundation, if you will. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about someone who rides really well, or, a hero, or maybe something that you do really well. And when I say that, I'm talking about something that is like done with extreme confidence. Let's take a rider that when they come into the arena, that you stop everything that you're doing and you watch that person and you admire them. And thinking about that person, you're probably conjuring up thoughts of that they exude confidence and calmness and focus and energy, but coolness and the ability to execute, right then and there, execute on demand. And if you'll notice that of all the things I said, calmness, confidence, focus, the ability to execute, that's a physical skill. But the other ones, a sense of fun and focus, those are all emotions. And actually, if you'll go to the third bullet under training principles, mental skills are really about emotion. We talk about mental skills because that's how we're used to thinking about it. But actually, it's a state of emotion, and that's how you know if you're there. And what's interesting, and this part has always been and still is so comforting to me, is that mental skills are just that. They are skills. So if you cannot call up a state of calmness and focus and confidence at the drop of a hat, it's only because you haven't learned how to do that, not because there's something innately wrong with you. So the goal is, you may have heard of that term, the zone, which means that you're in this place where you're like Godzilla. And the really good news is that is trainable. So I love that.